Welcome to yet another episode of Startup of the Month. I'm Enakshi from Qatar Day. This entire series is powered by 360 Nautica, which is a venture builder and an ecosystem enabler. On this particular episode, we get you tech, disruptors, enablers who've changed and revolutionized the way visually impaired people have access to digital content through Braille technology. Let's go ahead and get to know them a little better. I have with me Ramy and Aly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I would like to begin with asking you the question as to how do you guys know each other? Where do you guys know each other from?
Yeah, we actually know each other from primary school. We've been to the same school, the same university. We're building our business together. So it's been a while. It's been a ride, let's say.
And how did this idea come to your place, to your minds, that you wanted to create or change the way people accessed, especially visually impaired people access?
It was actually an accident, a completely random accident. So during university, I had a car accident and I broke my hand. I had to join the special needs center at Qatar University. So I need some assistance, some volunteers, people that would help me out to write in the assignments or the exams. And during that period, I got to interact a lot with visually impaired people there at the center. They're always asking for volunteers, and it was quite shocking how the struggle they go through after each lecture. So they would come back after the lecture with their content and their material. They wouldn't be able to access it, like not to study, or basically they're not facing difficulty in studying, but they're actually having difficulty in accessing the information to study it. So they would need some volunteers and people around them to write it in a certain accessible format that the assistive technology they're using would basically understand and translate it to text or Braille or audio. So yeah, that was basically the trigger. We were shocked about that. We were like, how? Like, we're always struggling and complaining and whining about the material we're trying to cover and study, and they were actually having a problem accessing this information. And the fact that we only noticed that at this age during college and during university is actually quite sad. If you think about it, how we are quite illiterate about what they use in their daily life. We only get to understand that during college and by complete accident. It just shows how segregated they are and how they're not integrated in our classrooms or workspaces enough. And part of it is actually, again, goes back to the technology currently available in the market. It's kind of tailored 100% to the blind people. It's not there for physically sighted people who don't understand what they're reading because it's in Braille completely.
So Ramy, if you could take me through how this technology really works, what goes behind building this Braille entertainment system, as you'd call it, if you could see a demo of how this...
Of course. So this is Bonocle, this is the device. The way it works is basically we've created a hardware device that's kind of going to act as a controller to existing technology. So you can imagine smart devices like your smartphone, your tablet, and it's basically going to give you haptic feedback in order to allow a blind person to interact with their smartphones or their tablets in ways that were never really available before. So what they would do is we have one Braille cell, which would give them Braille feedback, let's say when they're reading a PDF document, reading a book, studying something for their classrooms or whatnot. And then we also have motion sensors. So that's very cool because we wanted to integrate an entertainment factor into our solution. So the entertainment, when you think entertainment, games is definitely one thing that comes to mind. So what we did is we started thinking, how can we create an immersive experience that they can play using Bonocle? And so we created, thankfully, because we had the software aspect of it, we were able to create games, and people would be able to play those games using Bonocle. It would act as like a motion controller. So, for example, if they swipe right, if they gesture in any way, we would be able to detect that motion and either take action or give them feedback related to it. So it's something that combines multiple uses. For example, we're also pushing into our solution helping schools. Braille entertainment is actually becoming harder and harder with the difficulty people face actually more abroad than here in Qatar. With finding Braille educators, for example. And that's something that we're trying to solve with our solution. So we were providing an online platform where Braille teachers would be able to connect with students anywhere in the world, right? Like that's what we're trying to do, and they would give them like they would allow them to learn Braille through Bonocle, so they would be able to connect with the students' Bonocle device and kind of send them letters, communicate with them, and know exactly what the student is touching at any time. So these are like all of these combined we're focusing on everything in order to help blind people, not just students or not just with gaming, but what we call it is 3 categories. So it's productivity, so people like at work and stuff, education for students and all of that, and then games, entertainment basically.
Excellent. I love how holistic this application is. I wanted to know the idea when it's sprung about. It must be a great idea. You recognized it, but how difficult or easy was it perhaps to take on to that idea and build something which is concrete and now a solution in front of us?
It was quite difficult in every single way. We weren't sure what we're actually building. We have absolutely no idea how to solve this problem. We just, the engineering mindset. We're both engineers. We have engineering background, and we just noticed the problem. That's something that it has to be solved in a way. How? We have absolutely no idea. Again, we started off by a very simple idea, like having a tablet, of a Braille tablet, a Braille Kindle if you want to call it, and we'd have a grid of Braille that people can basically go through and read. It was quite expensive and again quite isolating. It doesn't solve the problem of isolation, because you as a sighted person, you cannot look at it and basically read what he's reading. You wouldn't be able to have a blind colleague at school, for example. Like, okay, how can you help me with this question? You cannot read it. So that didn't work. We thought of having a glove, a Braille glove. So imagine wearing a glove and you'd have that Braille cell under your fingertip. It's refreshable. It has pins that goes up and down, and it can mimic any Braille letter, just like the one we're using here. And you have it under your fingertip. And if you touch any letter on your iPad, for example, it will be transmitted over Bluetooth, and it will take the form of that letter in Braille under your fingertip.
That's brilliant.
It sounds perfect. It just sounds like it solves everything. It's translating. I'm literally translating Braille in real time. I would be going through text and actually reading it as if I'm actually crossing my finger over Braille paper. Yet you test it out and you go to the user, like the actual user, and it doesn't work. They were like, I need to brush my finger over the dots to detect which letter it is.
Right.
If you have it attached to my finger, I wouldn't be able to. It's like it moves with my finger. I cannot really detect which letter it is.
Wow.
It's something that you only learn if you keep your customer close and
That's
basically
great.
test it out with them.
So how many products did you build finally after which you decided to settle for this one?
Yeah, we had the glove that we definitely prototyped, and after we noticed that problem, we switched to a stylus. So if you have a stylus, and again, you would have the Braille cell under your fingertip, and you'd be able to brush smoothly, but you move the stylus over the screen. Again, another problem would be moving in a straight line. They were like, it sounds good again, but try again. It doesn't work. I cannot move in a straight line. I would jump from one line to the other, and that causes a problem. So we thought that moving something over the touch screen wouldn't work, and there is no point at the end of the day. Let's have something more like augmented reality. So we'd have that mouse form factor that is connected to your iPad, and you would be moving it over a table, not over the device. You'd be moving it over the table, just like a mouse, and as you move, if you go to the right, you will get the next letter. You go to the left, you can go back to the previous letter. Again, you're basically transforming every table in front of you to a Braille paper, a virtual Braille paper. You can just go through the line and again, move up and down, move through paragraphs, play, and just use the buttons over the device as well.
Excellent.
So yeah.
So tell me one thing, that in terms of support, when you did pitch this idea to your family members, to your close ones, how supportive were they? Was there funding available in the current environment that you were setting out with this idea for?
Honestly, like when we started, it was very challenging. First of all, we were working on something that people just weren't familiar with. The same thing Ali was talking about in the beginning of us learning what these people used and about the world, basically putting ourselves into their world. Other people never had that opportunity. So it was very difficult in the beginning to kind of explain and articulate what we were trying to work on and have people also understand like the potential, understand the problem. And so
Just to interrupt, you both left your full-time jobs to work on this startup.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we got to a point where we were scared of promotions because promotions would be hard for us to leave, right?
Yeah.
So both of us had like opportunities both here in
Yeah.
Qatar and abroad, and yeah.
And the problem is opportunity keeps coming and you have to keep rejecting.
Yeah.
Like I was having a full-time job at Nokia in Dublin and a sponsorship for my PhD and an opportunity to work at Google, and you have to basically just reject all of that and just, you know, guys, just mute your email in a way so you don't read it at all. But yeah,
So there was immense
no
faith
regrets.
in the product and the vision that both of you shared.
It's I mean, you don't get an opportunity to work on something that's gonna help. I don't know, like imagine when you help one person, you feel good about your day. Imagine being able to help a few million people around the world. It's a lot more than a few, but we're starting slow. So just that idea of being able to help an entire community was something that we couldn't like shy away from. We couldn't just, you know, like sleep at night and not be working on creating something that would help that many people.
When did you begin to get external support in terms of funding, monetary support, or even, let's say, guidance or mentorship?
It actually like started back in Qatar University. We met with a mentor there. He connected us to QSTP, Qatar Science and Technology Park, where we got through a program called the Accelerator Program. Again, you get some mentorship and you get some support, validating the idea, validating the business, validating the market, the product, testing it. And we have some mentors as well in the Supreme Committee here in Qatar as well. That's basically the kind of support that we we got from Qatar. We went through as well multiple the Challenge 22 from the Supreme Committee again. We won that competition where they give you a grant that help you to build the product. Or to build
So when
the
did you
company.
get this grant, which year?
That was back in
2018.
So you guys go back in 2015. 2014 is when the organization was founded.
So we started in 2016. 2016 is when we formed the company, and we like officially had it incorporated here in Qatar.
Okay. And you won your first grant, which year? The same year.
So we back in 2016 we were working off of accelerator program. So that was a program in QSTP, and they would give you a grant to kind of like research the market. So it's market validation basically. So you would learn what your customers are having troubles with, what
was
kind of
that an
solution.
easy program to get into? Was it competitive? Was it tough to?
Back then we were one of the first people to be enrolled into the program, so it was still starting out. And we also had a lot of support because, like Ali said, someone from Qatar University was helping us get in touch with a lot of people from QSTP, and we because we were in the beginning, we were kind of going through the journey together, and so it was a learning experience basically for us and for them.
It was a good thing and a bad thing in a way. The ecosystem wasn't as mature as it is now in Qatar. So it was again a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing that you don't have that much competition, or basically it would be a bit easier than now. A bad thing is basically you're kind of like a test bed. Again, the ecosystem is not helping you as much as now. You're still figuring out stuff yourself, whether it comes to paperwork, finding funding, reaching out to angel investors. So yeah, you're the first batch where people basically would try into, and basically, I mean, we're one of the, if not the first incubated startup at QSTP.
I see.
I remember once we established the company, we would go out to like government sectors or even private sector, and they wouldn't even know what is QSTP LLC, what is that entity, or basically what is this license? It's not issued from the ministry. How do you handle that? And basically we'd have to go back to QSTP management to help us out, and basically reach out to their management and explain to them that it's legit. Like they're fine, their paperwork is fine. Yeah. So it was good and bad at the same point.
I mean, in the beginning of our experience, we would go meet with investors, for example, and the first questions they would ask us is, how many blind people are there in Qatar?
Okay.
We were like, there's a few thousand, but like the solution is global. Like we're not working on something just for the Qatari market, while we are focusing on a lot of the problems with Arabic Braille and Arabic content. The solution that we're building is something that's going to help people all over the world. But it was always very hard for them to imagine, a few guys coming from Qatar, talking to them about this
Global
solution that we're gonna,
Change
sell
the
over,
world,
exactly,
yeah.
sell all over the
And
world.
back then, the mentality was basically the focus was to invest in real estate or the food and beverage sector. Like the food and beverage sector, that was the mainstream. People
Yeah.
would invest in that, wouldn't invest in a startup, a technology startup, not only technology, it's actually assistive technology startup.
That's correct.
That is quite specific, and you wouldn't find that many people interested to actually take that big of a risk. And they were like, okay, how the equity I would get, how much? Or like, if I give you the X amount, what kind of equity I would get? No, you get a convertible note. What is that? And like, what is this?
Convertible?
Yeah, a convertible note, which is basically kind of like you would give the money right now, and basically since the company is early stage and you're not in the market yet, you would evaluate the company later on, and based on the valuation, you would get the equity. So again, that's something that a lot of people are not familiar with.
Yeah, I just
So that
got
was
to know too.
quite challenging.
Yeah.
But later on, like recently, with what happened with Uber and Careem, and what happened with Amazon and Souk, people are just now more willing to invest in technology startups. And that's exactly the switch that happened the past 4 or 5 years. And it's amazing to see, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm just jealous of people right now. Like we didn't have that much of an opportunity back then.
But you spoke about the Arabic content and the difficulty in creating a Braille. So Braille in terms of language, which languages would this sort of configure, this Bonocle?
So Braille basically is just like, there's an equivalent to every language. So for example, English would have a specific Braille equivalent, while Arabic would have a slightly different Braille equivalent. For example, the first letter in English is just one dot in the Braille equivalent, while in Arabic it could be a different dot, for example.
So you're saying that anybody potentially all around the world can use it in any language that they prefer?
Exactly. So even like Chinese, for example,
They can use the same device?
the exact
Exactly.
same device. So while the representation, the Braille representation for them will be slightly different to match their language, it's just gonna work exactly the same way.
So tell me about your team. Does the team comprise of both of you heading the verticals? Like, let's say, what does the team comprise of?
That's me as a CEO and Ramy as a Chief Operating Officer, and we have, our technology team, let's say the technical team. We have an electronics engineer, we have 2 software developers, we have a game developer to basically handle the game and basically develop multiple games for our platform. We have a game designer that basically would come up with crazy ideas of games that would be completely playable using this hardware.
Also, just specifically for this
For Bonocle.
device?
So we're trying to design our own apps, so it would fully utilize the hardware and it would fully utilize its capabilities. Whatever sensors that are in there, it would be fully utilized in the game, for example, to have an immersive gaming experience.
There is a corresponding app to this.
Yeah, we have apps. It's actually a library of apps, as Ramy mentioned. We have like 3 categories: productivity apps. So you can imagine something like a ruler app, and that is something that actually one of the users that we were testing with came up with. She was actually one of our testers, and I remember when I reached out to her and I'm like showing her Bonocle as a reading device, just to read something, and that's how it started. We didn't think of the platform idea. So she tried it out and she was like reading and she was like, oh, I have a brilliant idea. She's actually working in data analytics and she's giving courses for programming.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. She's a blind person in New York. And she was like, I have an amazing idea for you. What if I use this device and move it from point A to point B, and it would tell me the distance between it in real time, in Braille under my fingertip. Like that would be so cool. I would be able to use that to basically measure stuff around me.
And not just read, but also navigate spaces around.
Exactly. I mean, she's working in data analytics, so that's exactly something that she would need every day, like
Yeah,
measuring
brilliant
stuff.
customers as well, I must say.
they're amazing. Again, we give them the credit for what we've reached, and they really helped us throughout the way with every single prototype that we come up with. We always go back to them and test it, and they come up with amazing feedback. So yeah, we have productivity apps like the ruler or a PDF reader, and we have educational apps like something that would teach them the alphabet in every language if they want, or basically connect them to a tutor somewhere in the world, basically to teach them the Braille letters or words or sentences. And we have games. So imagine a soccer game, for example. And again, we really focus to make it inclusive. So something that you would be playing against a blind person. So sighted person against blind, and it would be equally competitive for both of you.
Wow, and an equal platform.
Exactly. Just that's
brilliant.
our vision. So imagine like a soccer game or a challenge where basically a sighted person would be shooting at a goal, and the blind person would be the goalkeeper, and he would be holding the device, and he would know under the braille cell where the ball is heading. And if it's heading to the right, he have to take the action quickly and just block it with his hand. And if he block it, he would get a vibration as if it actually hit the ball with his hand. So it's completely immersive, and we try to make the games as immersive as possible.
So just getting back to the team question, how many of you are there in the company now?
We're around 10 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And was it
when
difficult to hire the right talent? Sorry.
When we first started, it was just me and Ali. So we got to learn so many different things that allowed us to sustain ourselves while it was just between us. So for example, the hardware, we would be learning how to solder components onto a PCB. We would be learning how to search different capacitors or different components that we never really were familiar with. And then on the other side, we were reading legal documents, creating our company's financials. So doing all of these things on our own allowed us to know exactly what we need. So now, for example, while we're building our team, each one of us handles something specifically, and we go talk to this person, we figure out what they've worked on, we're able to understand exactly if they're a good fit or not. Like a funny story, for example, is we wanted to create a video, a marketing video for Bonocle. Right. And we had a video that was shot previously by a professional company that was it was done as part of an award for a competition that we won.
I see.
But we had so many changes over a short period of time in the device itself, so we needed new content. Now, what was the solution? We couldn't afford to get a professional company to come and create a production for us. So straight away we started looking around, who has a camera? Guys, does anyone have a professional camera that we use? We were calling people, finding someone who works in that field and just taking their camera. And then, okay, we need a mic. Let's look for someone who has a mic. And we start talking to our friends, and we started shooting on our own.
Wow.
We just would create.
Engineers turned into videographers.
Exactly. So we would just create these scenarios. We would look at videos. YouTube is amazing, of course.
Yes.
So we would look at tutorials on YouTube, just learn different things, what we need to do, and we just started. It was a weekend of us just being videographers, filming our interviews, filming all these things.
We always try to keep that spirit as well as people we're hiring. If we're hiring people, we try to keep that spirit. Because again, what we're developing, we're not sure what we're developing. We're not 100% sure what are the requirements. So I don't want a software developer to be waiting for very clear requirements about what the app he should develop. Because again, that's something that we are exploring together. We need to learn in a way. We need to test with our users and again, go back and try to fix it. The task for him is basically to create an app that allows them to basically measure stuff. How? We don't know. We need to test it out and see if it works with them or not. If there's a problem, we need to go back and fix it. We need to learn a lot. In 2020, we were actually on a trip in the US back in March, on the 1st of March. So everything went west and we literally had to fly back, with COVID, 2020. Okay. So we actually went back home here 2 hours before the airport shut down.
Gosh.
But the plan was basically that I'm going to work with a game developer in Canada to basically develop a couple of games.
I see.
That of course didn't happen and everything was cancelled. So 2020 was basically me trying to learn game development.
That's brilliant. But are you remotely working now and figuring out a solution?
Everything is basically remotely now. We have an electronics engineer in Netherlands. We have people working from Netherlands. We have people working from Egypt. Everyone is working remotely.
It's something that 2020 has taught us. Where people are still able to produce the same quality work, just sitting from home. Most of the time, for example, if someone needs to change, to change their location, they're able to take that decision on their own. And that's something that we look for in the people that we hire. We want people who are able to, take those decisions on their own because they care about what we're doing. It's not just like a 9-to-5 kind of thing. Yeah. We're all like a family trying to fix that problem together.
I remember our electronics engineer actually. So we had a mode called auto scroll mode. Okay. So that is something would help people to read on the go, or in a metro, for example, or on a plane. So the letters would change at their fingertip, and automatically without moving the device over a table. One of the feedback was like, okay, I would love to have some control. Like, I want to go back a word if I missed something, for example, I want to go back. So our electronics engineer suggesting having a motion sensor inside. And you would have a tilt mode, where basically you tell the device to go forward, you keep it neutral if you want to pause, and you can tilt it backward to go backward. It was great for this scenario, but then that triggered actually the game aspect. I remember that day I was like, Ramy, what if we actually add that motion sensor and having the game aspect? Back then it was just for reading. And I'm like, having the game aspect, maybe they can play Fruit Ninja, for example, and they can move the device in the air and just slice fruits and play Subway Surfer, it's crazy. That's how it all started.
I love the way it's being amplified. Now, considering the fact that World Cup 2022 is around the corner, do you think you're going to scale this device to such a build-up where all the visually impaired people will be allowed to participate in an equal capacity, just as you advocate? Also, what are the market possibilities for this app?
We've met with so many people. We've actually been contacted by people from all over the world. And they're asking us, like, will this help me with this specific problem? So what we tried to do with the software aspect is to have it, have endless potential. So you can imagine, for example, if I notice people are having a specific problem with one specific task that they're doing, later on we can create an application and that can be added to their library straight away. So they would be able to use these things to solve whatever problem that they could possibly face. We're pushing to get the product in the hands of people, just to get them to know how to use it, just to get them to enjoy it. And then we're focusing on events like, for example, the World Cup, things like these where we can provide solutions that are tailored specifically to those events. So, for example, we already had a conversation with them about like indoor navigation, for example, something that we're able to provide with Bonocle because we have the components necessary to provide people with, these small adjustments where, to let them know where to go, and also to let them know which direction they're going. If they want to go to a specific area in the stadium, it can actually help them get to that point within the stadium. It's a lot of things that for example, if they're sitting at the match and they want to, instead of, because sometimes some people don't want to hear the analyst talking, kind of present. Yeah, exactly. The presenter presenting the match. They want to enjoy the experience of being in the stadium. They want to hear the people cheering around them, and Bonocle, for example, could be just that, something that helps them, understand what's happening on the pitch, while also being part of the experience that's happening around them.
Mm-hmm. If I were to buy this app, this device rather, how much would it cost me? Is it available in the markets right now?
We're actually working on the manufacturing right now. It should be out in the market by Q2, by the second quarter this year. And you should be able to buy it from our website, bonocle.co, for $500. So that is quite affordable compared to the available options right now. So like if you pre-order it, again, you get like 20% discount at the moment, since you're receiving it back like in Q2 in the second quarter.
So it's out there in the market.
It's out there on our website. You can already order it, and you can we'll be shipping to here in Qatar and everywhere in the world, like US and other places.
So with this device done, what is the next venture that you're looking at in terms of building a solution to?
We're like there's so much opportunity. Like what we've noticed throughout our experience, throughout our journey, is this market is like lacking in innovation. I mean, a lot of the solutions that we noticed, for example, back in March last year, we were in an event for assistive technology in the US. And we go talk to people about the new devices that they have, and they go like, "Oh yeah, this newer device is $3,000 or $4,000." We're like, "Okay, so what's new about it?" They're like, you charge it through USB-C, you connect it with a USB-C connection instead of like micro USB or whatever." Something that is so simple, something that is, these very small iterations that people actually buy new devices just specifically for those minor things. And what we're trying to do is disrupt the market. We want people to innovate. We want these new innovations to come and solve these problems. I mean, Braille devices should not be in the thousands of dollars. I mean, like we now buy any piece of the technology that we want, for very affordable prices. That kind of makes it a human right. Exactly. So that's what we're trying to do. So like the main goal of our startup and actually what we're doing and what we want to continue doing is just make the market more innovative, make the market have more options. For example, people in countries like where we're originally from, Egypt or India or Pakistan or China, they're not able to afford those expensive devices, and so they mostly have to depend on someone through their life, and that's something that we're trying to really focus on and change with Bonocle.
Wow, I see the personal is the political. It comes from a very deeply personal rooted space
Exactly,
of being
definitely.
able to change the world. Now with this, now that you guys are successful entrepreneurs, do you have any word of advice for the budding ones?
Well, focus on your product, I would say. Like spend more time on the product you're working on, or basically building cool technology that's actually useful for people. More time on that than on meetings and finance and even investor, I would say, with all the due respect. But it's just spend more time on your product and spend more time with your customers, testing that with them and hearing to them. Sorry, and don't delegate that. Like do it yourself. Keep them close and just keep testing with them and keep hearing from them and prioritize the blunt feedback. Like that would be the most useful thing. And that's actually how Bonocle was built. We do not take credit for this technology. Like again, we give it back to the community who helped us to actually shape it the way it is right now. Like we didn't have that vision when we started. We saw a problem and we wanted to solve it. We didn't know how to do that, and we didn't know the potential of what we've developed as a technology or even as a hardware. Like every time we go and test with them, they come up with a crazy idea. They're like, oh, I can use that for navigation actually. You know what? At least if you have a compass inside, I would be able to navigate around and use it instead of like Google Maps or whatever. It would be more accurate. Like Google Maps would tell me the route, but it wouldn't tell me where I should head, or basically where the compass is. And that was back in January. I came back in March with a compass added. She was like, how big is your team? Like, this is amazing. Like
Additions after additions.
Yeah, like that is crazy. Like I just brought it up in one of our meetings, and now it's implemented. And that's basically what we really try to do. We try to establish a company built by the community for the community. We're always hearing from them. And as you mentioned, like it doesn't end by launching the device and putting it on the market. We actually start from there. We have to develop as much apps as we can that can, cover all the use cases and satisfy people users. If you're an engineer or you're a teacher or basically just chilling at home and you want to play a game, that's how it starts actually. And we try to develop apps for that. So we'll still be in contact with them and just Spend much time, as much as you can. And that would actually ease out the other things like finance and actually raising investment. If you have a decent product and a good added value, that would actually ease out things. It would ease out things to actually raise investment, or basically to handle your finance or even your marketing and sales would be much easier to market something that is actually useful and people they don't need it, they want it. It's something that actually pays out later on.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ramy, for
Thank you so
taking us
much.
through this beautiful journey of building a valuable product.
Thank you.
That is truly going to be revolutionary to the markets. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. Ali and Ramy took us through a beautiful journey of what it means to innovate and create a product of value. I'm Enakshi Sharma signing off from Qatar Day. Please keep following us and we'll be back next month with yet another episode.